So in a previous video, I had purchased two Apple displays online for a very cheap price. They were both supposed to be not working, but I got them both working. In one case, I had to remove the cable completely and just ran a Thunderbolt cable directly from the Thunderbolt port on the back, and that seemed to work fine. But in most cases, people will replace the cable, but it's like $80 plus. Let's do a quick recap of what happened at that point. I found the cable that was attached to the monitor was frayed, and the monitor, of course, before doing anything, I just had to see if it worked. So plugged it in, turned on a Mac, and nothing. So of course I had to take it apart. In the process of taking it apart, I found that the mounting on the back of the existing cable was actually loose. So I knew someone had either taken it apart or broken it. So not knowing what to expect, I just took it apart and immediately saw fingerprints of somebody else. So someone else had opened this up. So not knowing what to expect, I opened it up and found that the cable to the LCD was completely missing. There were a lot of screws missing, and all the cables attached to the main board were just not even connected. So there was no way this was going to work without me taking it apart anyway. But now we had missing pieces. So initially I had purchased the additional pieces online, took off the built-in cable, was going to throw it away, and just plugged everything back into Thunderbolt port in the back with a new Thunderbolt cable, and that brings us to where we are today. So I went back and took a look at the cable, the old cable that was not working, and took it apart just because I was curious about how it's built inside. And it looks like it's just a regular Thunderbolt connector. Well, that's the side that goes on the computer end, so that's a regular Thunderbolt connector. But inside it's just a bunch of like, I don't know, 22, 24, maybe gauge, both plastic shielded cables and enameled cables. So especially since they're enameled cables, it's possible that over however old this cable is, it wore out and shorted somewhere. So there was no point in trying to fix this. You can see the little cables right there. But this gave me an idea. What if I could use this plastic piece that comes out of the monitor and run my own cable through it? Looking at this is just a regular Thunderbolt connector, and the other side is a power connector, which I don't actually need. So what parts of this do I need, and how do I get this out? So I noticed that there's this black plastic piece, and it is separate from the rubber piece. So see if I can take that off, and you can. So let's put that aside so we can reuse it later. And I don't actually need the existing cables, so I'll just cut them off. Now, one side is a Thunderbolt and one side is a power. We don't need either of them, and we don't actually need to replace the power side because we don't intend to ever hook it up to a MacBook. So we just need to cut open this rubber grommet housing, see if we can pull out the guts there, and it seems like there's a big enough channel that we can run another cable. Now, we don't want to run a 90-degree kink in a new cable, so we're gonna try to see if there's enough space in there to cut a little uh, more area that we can actually bend the cable just slightly, not enough to kink it, and seems like it could work. So as long as that gets held in tight, then we should be okay. That looks like it might work. Now we've got the black plastic um, part that mounts this to the inside of the monitor back on, so that looks okay. Looks nice and snug, and we just have to make sure that the length inside the monitor is long enough to reach the board, and it looks like it's okay. The last thing we need to do to prepare this is heat shrink tube the mounting on the back of the monitor. Needed to stretch it a bit to get it over the barrel of the connector, but it does fit. And this is going to keep that cut in the mounting from opening up. I didn't have a white heat shrink tubing. I only had a clear one, but it'll work fine. So it fits there, and we're just going to heat it up and let it do its job. Let's see how this works here. Apply heat. It shrinks over the wire and the mounting, and it's going to prevent that from opening up. It's also going to prevent dust from getting in there. Now, since this is on the outside of the monitor, if I ever wanted to redo this with a white heat shrink, I could just cut this off and do the same thing again. So let's run the cable along the monitor, making sure everything is going to fit the way it's supposed to. Now, I made this inner cable a little too long, so we may have to let the slack rest somewhere, as long as it doesn't pull on other cables. Once again, seeing that this is the same kind of plug, but the barrel is a lot wider on the regular Thunderbolt plug. We're just gonna lay it in there, see how the old barrel is against this metal bracket, and just kind of rests in there. It's not screwed down or anything. The new cable doesn't fit because the bracket's in the way. So let's take off the bracket. So I'm pretty sure that the new cable will fit without the bracket, but taking a look at this, I'm not sure if it was used as a heat sink. It's on these big aluminum screw mounts, but there are only two screws. And I looked online, and other people only have two screws. So I don't think it's a heat sink. It looks more like it's put in there to kind of hold that cable in because there's a little raised area that kind of pushes against the cable. Um, I don't think we need that. It's just gonna sit in there with just the plug itself holding it in. Nothing's gonna move it, so it should be okay. I mean, although it's just sort of dangling there, it's insulated because there's plastic. It's not going to touch anything. It's not going to come out. So I think we're just going to leave it this way. So let's run the cable through the back and see if the mount fits, even though it's been cut and a new wire's been put through. I think it's still going to fit. It looks exactly the same as the old one. So let's get that in there, put it on the three posts. Oh, we need to take off the existing screws so we can get it underneath. But let's slide that onto the posts, put it in place. Now, when I first bought the monitor, it was missing the bracket that holds that cable down, which is why it was loose. But I was able to go online and buy another one. So let's put that in place. So it seems like everything fits right. Getting that ground wire back on. And looks good for now. So let's just throw everything back together. Now we need to get this cable positioned in a way that it's not gonna put any pressure on that um, connector, and that all the other wires are able to go into the board without risk of being pulled out. I think I think we have it right now. Looks good. Make sure we get everything connected. And we just put everything back together and test the monitor. And this is no different than the last time we put the monitor together, except this time the replacement cable's in there. And once everything's back together, let's do a quick spot check. Everything still looks good. We're not going to notice this cut because it's in the back of the monitor, but it's still sturdy. I think it'll work. So let's test it out. We plug the cable into the Macintosh and hope it works. Turn it on. And that's a good sign. There's a backlight. And there we go. It's on. So I've seen online people spending 80, 90, over $100 with shipping to replace the cable on a Thunderbolt monitor when it's broken. But as you can see, you can spend $20 for used or maybe $4 for a new Thunderbolt 2 cable and just replace it. And it'll work just as good as new. You won't have the MagSafe power right there, but most people won't use it anymore. You only need the Thunderbolt portion, whether you attach it inside the monitor like I did, or in the back of the monitor. Keep in mind, if you do plug it in the back of the Thunderbolt monitor, there's only one Thunderbolt port, so you won't be able to plug any other Thunderbolt device. If you replace the internal cable with a Thunderbolt cable the way I did, you'll see that there's no extra openings that we need to patch up. The cable is sturdy enough and probably will last quite a few years. There's no other cables that have to dangle off of the back, and you will have the Thunderbolt port available in case you need to plug in any other Thunderbolt device. So I guess we're going to call this part two of fixing Apple displays that I bought online. If you're interested in side projects in fixing older electronics or how to use computers you may already have for modern things like AI, then go ahead and like and subscribe.